Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back. I'm Fuzz, and today I've got another must-own 4K movies list video for you, except this time I'm going to be honing in on the 1990s. I'm a big fan of 90s action and sci-fi action movies, so I thought it'd be fun to put together a list of my top 20 must-own 4K movies from the 1990s. I've done a few of these must-own 4K movies videos, but they've always been a little bit more generalized and not really focused on any specific era or genre. You know, I've often said on the channel that I think the 90s was the best decade in filmmaking history for action movies specifically. I think we got some of the best action movies of all time in the 90s. And I just tend to think of the 90s as like the last truly great decade for filmmaking before everything started to transition into the digital age and CGI and green screens and away from more classic filmmaking techniques and practical effects. Now, I always like to clarify a little bit when I'm going into these types of videos. When I say must own, what I really mean is if you're a fan of the film, then I think it's a must own title on the 4K format. And that's as of right now, right? As of what's been released on 4K as of this video recording. That could change in a year or in 2 years, right? In fact, I'm already anticipating having to do like a sequel to this video or some kind of follow-up at some point in the future, because I can think of at least a few movies that we know are being worked on for 4K, but we just don't have release dates or more specific timelines yet. For example, I know they're working on like The Rock, they're working on Crimson Tide, they're working on Con Air, I believe they're working on Armageddon as well. So that's 4 titles right there that would probably be very good contenders for a list like this. So I imagine I'll probably be doing a sequel at some point, must-own 4K 90s movies, part 2, maybe within the next year or so. And even this list was kind of challenging, trying to narrow it down to 20 must-own 4K movies. I had more than 20. I definitely had some leftovers that I wasn't able to fit onto this list. So I was thinking, I'm probably going to have to do a follow-up video at some point. Now, for regular viewers of the channel, many of these movies are going to be titles that you've heard me mention on the channel in the past. I've certainly made a few must-own 4K videos in the past, but some of those videos are a couple years old now, and I thought it would be fun to do an update for those who are maybe new to the channel and who didn't necessarily get a chance to catch some of those earlier videos. Plus, like I said, I just wanted to do something that was more focused on the 1990s specifically for those who are not only fans of the era, but maybe also happen to be relatively new to collecting 4K. It seems like we've seen more and more people, like in the last year or two, starting 4K collections or returning to collecting and upgrading to 4K. All right, so let's just get into the list here. My top 20 must-own 90s 4K movies. Without any further ado, let's rock this. All right, now keep in mind the titles on this list, they all share one thing in common. They are all the best these movies have ever looked on home media. Also, I'm ranking these, doing like a countdown today from 20 to 1, but this ranking is very loose. I wouldn't put too much weight on my placement of any given title within this list. I mean, obviously, the ones near the top of the list are some of my favorites and my absolute must-owns, but as far as I'm concerned, these are all must-own titles for the 4K format if you're a fan of these movies. Now, many of them, some people would consider demo-worthy or even reference-quality titles. I'm always a little nervous about using the word reference because that implies like top of the top standard, right? And everybody's going to have a different idea of what that is. Right? It's somewhat subjective. So I tend to use the word demo-worthy more often. You guys can, interpret that for what it is. But basically, when I say demo-worthy, it's just to kind of give you an idea, right? Everybody's going to have a different interpretation of what they think constitutes demo-worthy. But basically, when I say demo-worthy, I'm just saying it's a really stellar release. And some people may think it's so good that they could demo out their system if they were trying to get someone else hooked on the 4K format, that this is the kind of title that they could use to kind of impress them and show them what all 4K can do. But I wouldn't say that every title on this list is necessarily demo worthy. Sometimes it's just the best the film has ever looked before. But the film itself may have some issues baked into the source that prevent it from being the type of movie that would produce a demo worthy 4K. And the first one I'm talking about today is a prime example of that, which is why I felt the need to say it. Because this one, I think it's a must-own for any fan of this movie, any fan of 90s action, but it's not necessarily the most amazing-looking movie, right? And I'm talking about, for my number 20, Point Break. Point Break's kind of a unique situation. What I will say is the previous Blu-ray of this, the Blu-rays in the past looked like crap. They did not look good at all. And that's the main reason you want to own this movie on 4K. This blows away the previous Blu-rays of this film. But there are some things with this film that might throw a few people off, especially if you're new to 4K. You might be expecting the film on 4K to look better than it actually does. And that's because of the way the film was made. They did some strange things with the cinematographer, basically used a certain type of film stock and some filters to kind of give the film a more dull look, right? A kind of a flatter, more muted look, right? He didn't want the colors to be as vivid or vibrant. Basically, it sounds like they didn't want this image to be like a pop-worthy image by design. Apparently, the cinematographer was going for kind of an overcast, desaturated look with this movie. So if I'm being completely honest, this movie has never really been this amazing looking movie to begin with. At the source, this movie has never really been much of a looker, to be honest, right? The main reason this film is so iconic is because of the story and the performances from, Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze and Gary Busey. But the cinematography on this movie is something else entirely. I wouldn't necessarily call the cinematography iconic. So you got to keep that in mind when you're watching this film on 4K. It's by far the best this film has ever looked in home media, and it's probably the best this film's ever going to look. This is probably the best we're going to get. So if you're a fan of this film, then yeah, I do think it is a must-own for your collection. Now, I've got a standard edition 4K here, and I'll show you the back real quick if you want to pause on that and see what's included. But I also just recently double dipped for this one. Amazon Prime Days, they had this thing on sale for a really good price, and I wanted a nicer edition for this movie. So I got this badass steelbook right here. And yeah, this looks even cooler in hand than I thought it was going to. I mean, I was always kind of drawn to the artwork on this, and I had been debating whether or not to pick this up at some point or not, because I was kind of regretting not getting the steelbook here. And let me let you take a look at that. It is beautiful. You got this cool metallic sheen to it. There is spot gloss all over it, on the money, on the characters. It is a gorgeous looking steelbook and looks way cooler in hand than I thought it would. I mean, like I said, I was impressed with the artwork just seeing the pictures of it, but once you actually get this bad boy in your hands, yeah, it looks really cool. You can kind of see the shine there, and you see how metallic it is there, and colorful. Right? I just love it. So awesome film. And again, it's a must-own for your collection if you're a fan of this film. At least I think it is. And you've got two choices there. You can either get the standard edition slipcover, and this is, by the way, Shout Studios here. This is a Shout Select release. Or, of course, you can get the steelbook. So, yeah, for my number 20, Point Break. All right, and next up for my number 19, we've got Tremors from Arrow Video here. Fantastic looking 4K. Some people would definitely consider this a demo-worthy 4K. The practical effects in this look awesome. The creature effects, yeah, they're really stunning in 4K. It's just a really good transfer, as you would expect from Arrow Video. They do really good work. They're one of my favorite boutiques for a reason. Their transfers are always top-notch transfers. So, yeah, you can't go wrong with something like this. Let me show you the back real quick. There's tons of special features on this, too. Making of documentaries and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of featurettes and interviews. So, yeah, this is a great release. I missed out on the chunky box. This was like one of the very first boutique titles I ever bought. One of the very first Arrow video releases or boutique of any kind that I think I bought. And, I just loved it when I got it. But at the time when I bought it, I wasn't into the whole collectible edition groove yet. Right, so I just got the standard edition. And if you want the collectible chunky box, the really nice fancy one, you can still find that on eBay. It's just going to probably cost a little bit more than it did when it first came out. But it's a great transfer, and if you're a fan of this film, I would definitely recommend picking this one up on 4K for your collection. So yeah, for my number 19, Tremors. Okay, and for my number 18, we've got a little Stallone action here, talking about Cliffhanger. This one's a classic, as far as I'm concerned. I saw this one in the theater when it first came out, and I loved it. I've always been a pretty big Stallone fan. You can't go wrong with the 4K for this one. Now, I don't know if I'd consider it like demo-worthy. That's going to be kind of up to you. But it is a really good looking 4K. And I think part of what makes it so cool is you've got all this natural location scenery, right? It just looks amazing in 4K. And just the natural environments that they were shooting in really lent itself well to the 4K format. Now I've got the Steelbook here from Sony, and let me show you the back here real quick. And actually, the Steelbook is just a fairly recent acquisition for me. I actually have the standard edition too, but it was another one of those deals where it was a really good price, Amazon Prime days, and I didn't have it on Steelbook, and I thought, I wouldn't mind having something a little nicer for this film. So I went ahead and snagged the Steelbook as well. So if you're a fan of Stallone and a fan of this film, it's one I'd recommend adding to your collection. Of course, you can't go wrong with John Lithgow as the villain in this one either. His performance as the villain is classic. I mean, I always loved Lithgow, but he was particularly sinister in this one. Anyway, it's just a great looking 4K from Sony. Sony usually does a pretty good job with their restorations, and I think it's fair to say this one is no exception. So anyway, for my number 18, Cliffhanger. All right, moving right along to my number 17. From 1991, we've got a Ron Howard film here that is just awesome for fire. And I'm talking about Backdraft. Awesome movie. Great movie. Saw this one in the theater as well when it first came out. And I loved it. I'm a big Kurt Russell fan. You can't go wrong with a little Kurt. But one of the great things about this movie, and the reason I have this 4K on this list, is because I think it's probably the best we've ever seen fire look in 4K. I mean, there's all this real, practical stuff, right? Real fire. And it just looks incredible on the 4K format. So that's the main reason this title is on this list. But it's just a really good 4K transfer, generally speaking, beyond even just the fire. So if you're a fan of this film, then I do think it's a must-own for your collection on the 4K format. So for my number 17, Backdraft. Okay, and next up for my number 16, we've got a Paul Verhoeven film here from 1992, Basic Instinct. I just have the standard edition Studio Canal release, which is a UK release. But we just recently, earlier this year, got a 4K release here in the US from Lionsgate. So you might want to check that out. There is a very cool steelbook available for this from Lionsgate Limited. So in fact, part of me is tempted to try and get my hands on that steelbook, even though I know it's the same exact transfer as this. That steelbook looks really cool. Has the cool clear plastic slip cover over the steelbook. I always love it when they do that. But anyway, this is a really good looking 4K release. I mean, the detail is off the charts on this one. So much depth, so much pop to the image. So again, if you're a fan of this film, then I do think it's a must-own title on 4K for your collection. So yeah, my number 16, I guess that's about all I can really say about this. Basic Instinct. Okay, and next up for my number 15, a 1993 film directed by John McTiernan. Got a little Arnold action here for you. And I'm talking about The Last Action Hero, which I have in this just incredible looking steelbook. I bought this steelbook because of the art. Again, this was something when I bought this a couple years ago, it was a double dip. You know, it was another one of those deals where I had purchased just a standard no slipcover edition on 4K before, but then I saw this steelbook art and I just had to have it. It was so cool. But this is a great transfer of this film, and if you're a fan of this film, you should definitely consider checking this one out. Now, it's maybe not quite as like demo worthy as some of the other titles on this list, but like every title on this list, this is easily the best this film has ever looked on home media. Now, this film's kind of funny. This one, I feel like this movie was kind of ahead of its time, right? It didn't quite hit the way in the 90s when it was first released. It didn't quite hit at the time the way it does now. Now, I feel like this movie has way more relevance now than it did back then. You know, I mean, the movie is kind of a satire almost of like 80s action movies and 80s or early 90s action movies, right? And so they're poking fun at all these action movie tropes. Pretty much every cheesy classic action movie trope that you can think of is addressed in this movie. And I remember thinking this was a great movie when it first came out. I liked it at the time, but I like it even more now. And it's because, you know, I don't know what it was. I think it was too close to the 80s. And that's why this film didn't quite register with people or resonate with people as much as other Arnold films did. I think it was too close, and it was a little too satirical and almost kind of a little bit of a parody type vibe in there as well. You know, Arnold's doing like almost like a satirical take on himself. He's poking fun at himself. And, you know, he's always been a really good sport with that kind of stuff. And I've always liked that about Arnold. But at the time when this movie came out, all of those tropes that they were poking fun at were still actively being used in the action movies of the day. So, you know, it didn't quite hit the same way. But now with, 30, 40 years of nostalgia built up and a little distance in time away from this movie, now those tropes are hilarious. I mean, they absolutely resonate way more now than they did at the time when this movie first came out. So yeah, this is such a great movie. And I do think the movie was a little ahead of its time. I don't think people at the time were quite ready to look at their beloved action movies in quite this way, but now we've got all this nostalgia built up and we can look back and go, yeah, that really was how 80s action movies were. So it's just a really fun ride. Same director as Die Hard and Predator, although this one, of course, is not quite on the same level as a Die Hard or a Predator, but it's still a fun Arnold movie and one that I always enjoy returning to. In fact, I was just watching it last night, just came back to it last night, and always enjoy revisiting this one. So if you're a fan of Arnold, a fan of The Last Action Hero, then I would recommend checking this one out on 4K. So for my number 15, The Last Action Hero. All right, moving on to number 14 here from 1992. We've got a little Batman action here, a little Michael Keaton Batman to be specific. I'm talking about Batman Returns. This is an excellent looking 4K. The set pieces and the sets and the practical effects, everything just looks incredible on this 4K. And I think out of the first four Batman movies, the two Michael Keaton, the Val Kilmer, and the Clooney movie, well, I haven't seen the Clooney one because I don't like Clooney, but of the other three, this I think is the best 4K of all of them. Right. Now, I mean, the other ones look good, too. So don't get me wrong. Those are all you can't go wrong with any of those Batman movies on 4K from a transfer / restoration standpoint. They all look really good on 4K. But I do feel like this one looks the best. And you just can't go wrong with something like this on 4K. So if you're a fan of Batman, as I am, and you'd like to get a little Batman action on 4K, I would encourage you to check this one out. So for my number 14, Batman Returns. By the way, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, do me a favor and please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do, don't forget to activate those notifications as well so you can be alerted when I'm posting videos that you might dig. Also, don't forget to like the video and maybe even share the video if you're feeling so inclined. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it really is important with the YouTube algorithm. It really helps with the channel's visibility. So if you can, I would be very grateful for a like on the video. Thank you so much for your support, guys. I really appreciate it. All right, and moving right along to my number 13 from 1994. Got a little Quentin Tarantino action here. We're We're talking about Pulp Fiction. This one is a damn good looking 4K. This very much is a demo-worthy 4K. Some would even use the term reference quality to describe this one, but it's a fantastic looking 4K. And of course, just an absolute classic film. Right? I mean, you can't go wrong with Pulp Fiction. I'm not even sure how much I can really say about it, but it really does. The 4K, so much pop to the image, that usual increased depth and detail. It's all there with the 4K. It just looks stunning on the format. So yeah, again, if you're a fan of Pulp Fiction, then you absolutely owe it to yourself to get this on 4K. So for my number 13, Pulp Fiction. And next up for my number 12, we've got another title here that I would absolutely consider a demo-worthy title on the format from kind of an unlikely movie. It kind of took me by surprise. And I'm talking from 1994 again, The Shawshank Redemption. Just an incredible looking 4K. I couldn't believe how good this looked. The detail on this is so crisp and sharp. You can see a lot more than you ever were able to see before. This is one of those ones that, I held off for a while on picking it up. And then, because I wasn't sure, Shawshank Redemption, it's in a prison. I wasn't sure how good it would actually look on 4K or if it was even necessary to have this on 4K. But then I was talking to someone and he said, no, you got to check this out. This is like a demo quality disc. And I was like, really? So I bought it. And sure enough, that person was absolutely right. This is a stunning transfer on physical media. Easily the best this film has ever looked on physical media, and possibly the best this film has ever looked, period, ever. It really is just a fantastic restoration. So if you're a fan of Shawshank Redemption, as I am, another one I saw in the theater, like so many of these films, and when I saw this in the theater at the time, it did make a pretty big impact on me. It's easily, I think it's fair to say, one of the greatest prison films of all time. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with that. Some might have some other choices, like Escape from Alcatraz or something, but this definitely is up near the top of one of the best prison films of all time, as far as I'm concerned. So, for my number, what was this, 12? Yeah, for my number 12, Shawshank Redemption. All right, for my number 11, a little Kevin Costner action here from 1995, Waterworld. Another just fantastic looking 4K. This is from Arrow Video, and I recommend getting the Arrow Video release if you can. I'm sure they have. I've got the nice thick, fancy, chunky box here with the book and the poster and all that. You don't have to get this. I'm sure they have a standard edition 4K available as well, which would look like this. For those of you who are new to collecting, new to boutiques, and this is reversible cover art. The same art that's here is on the other side of this. So yeah, you can probably just get like a standard edition 4K from Arrow. Universal does also have a 4K of this. So you don't have to get the Arrow release, and even the Universal release I've heard looks really good. But the thing I like about Arrow, well, first of all, Arrow's my favorite boutique, and I just think they do the best work in general. But I think they just used the Universal scan for this. They might have done some additional restoration or something, but it really looks awesome. But the reason I like the Arrow release is because on a separate Blu-ray, as a bonus feature, they included the Ulysses cut of the film. Right? The uncut, full Ulysses cut. The Universal release does not have the full, uncut, not edited for TV Ulysses cut, right? And Arrow did give us that. Now, yeah, I wish they had given us that Ulysses cut on 4K. You only get it on a Blu-ray disc. You don't get it on 4K. You only get the theatrical cut on 4K. But, that theatrical cut looks incredible. It really does. You definitely cannot go wrong with the quality of the 4K regardless, even though it's not the Ulysses cut. But, I definitely wanted to have the Arrow Video version because I wanted that Ulysses cut in addition. And frankly, for a Blu-ray, even the Ulysses cut looks incredible. I mean, it looks really good for a Blu-ray. it doesn't look quite as good as the 4K, but it looks, exceptionally good for a Blu-ray. So, yeah, you just can't go wrong with this. The other reason, in fact, let me see if I can show you that here. The other reason to pick up the Arrow video release is you want the bonus features. There is an incredible making of documentary. It's like a feature-length making of documentary. And I don't know if you can see that, but I figured I'd put it up there in case you want to pause and try and zoom in on it or whatever. But yeah, there's an incredible documentary that comes with this release. And that documentary by itself is almost worth the price of admission alone. But then, of course, you get the Ulysses cut on Blu-ray and then a stellar 4K transfer on 4K. So it really is a great release. So if you're a fan of Waterworld, this is one I would also recommend adding to your collection on 4K. So for my number 11, Waterworld. All right, we're getting into the top 10 now. Very, very exciting. So let's talk about Face Off. From 1997 for my number 10. Great Kino Lorber release, one of their better transfers that I'm aware of anyway. Yeah, Kino Lorber, they're not real fancy on the packaging or anything like that. Usually just a basic slipcover, but they do put out some good restorations and transfers. And this one's fantastic. The detail on this, again, it's off the charts on this. You got a lot of depth to the image in this one. And yeah, the detail's nice and crisp, right? Nice and sharp. And of course, this is just a classic 90s action film. You can't go wrong with a little John Woo. Am I right? So yeah, if you're a fan of this is one you should definitely add to your collection on 4K. I don't think you'll regret it at all. So for my number 10, Face Off. All right, for my number 9, we've got another Arrow video release here. Arrow just always does such amazing work with their 4Ks, so big fan. I can't tout them enough to you guys. Love Arrow video. But this one from 1990, Flatliners. This one truly took me by surprise. Because I hadn't seen the movie in many, many years when I bought this. And, I wasn't expecting much, to be honest. I always expect a decent restoration from Arrow, but, I remember this movie. I didn't remember this movie looking that great the last time I had seen it. And I'd never owned it on Blu-ray before, but I have heard others who've done reviews comparing this to the Blu-ray, and they said that old Blu-ray absolutely sucked for this film. So this was a massive upgrade from whatever transfer I had last seen. And it's stunning. It's truly stunning. It's very surprising how good this looks. This is absolutely a demo-worthy 4K. Some would call this a reference quality disc. I don't know if I want to quite go that far, but it is really high quality. Very high quality. And, a great cast, of course. You got Kiefer Sutherland in this. You got Kevin Bacon, Julia Roberts. So I'm not the biggest Julia Roberts fan, but whatever. She was kind of a thing back then. But the colors on this just look incredible. The level of depth and detail that you're able to see with this movie, especially there's a lot of dark scenes. So the HDR definitely helps with that. So if you're a fan of this film and you haven't picked up the 4K, thinking that maybe it wasn't something you really needed on 4K, I can tell you're going to be impressed with this release. So you might want to check it out. So, and let me show you the backside real quick here. I don't even know if you'll be able to see that. If you guys want to pause that and, freeze it and check it out. Now, it might be kind of hard to find the slipcover right now because I'm sure the slip-covered versions are out of print or are sold out a long time ago. So you may only be able to get the, with the, they always have reversible cover art, but this one is just obviously the same as the cover. I never swapped it out. I never swapped it around yet. In fact, I should probably do that, but whatever. But yeah, you can buy a standard edition 4K as well. You don't have to get the slip-covered release. If it's out of print, it's probably going to cost, a bit more on eBay because even slipcovers, sorry, get around my cables here. Even slipcovers are collectible and sought after, and people will pay good money for slipcovers. So if you order this from Amazon or whatever, don't be alarmed if it doesn't come with a slipcover. It might still come with a slipcover. I don't know. But this has been out for, I think, 3 years now. So I would expect most of those slipcovers to be long gone by now. So yeah, for my number 9, Flatliners. All right, and moving right along here to my number 8, another just demo-worthy, fantastic restoration, The Fugitive. From when did this come out? 1993. Another one you just can't go wrong with. Warner Brothers has been kicking ass lately. They really have been bringing their A game. This restoration, I believe, if I remember right, was sourced from an 8K scan of the original camera negative, and they've been doing that with quite a few of their releases. I think it's starting to become kind of a regular practice with their restorations. But Warner Brothers has been doing a lot of great stuff. They're one of the few big companies out there, big studios, that still takes physical media seriously. They still seem to be taking physical media seriously. They always release both a standard edition 4K with a slipcover and a steelbook edition on 4K with pretty much all of their titles. And sometimes you'll even get a chunky box like Ultimate Collector's Edition option as well. So I've been really happy with the work that Warner Brothers has been doing lately. And, The Fugitive is no exception. Just this great restoration, lots of great detail, and again, that usual pop and depth that you would expect to see on the image, it's absolutely there on The Fugitive. So if you're a fan of this film, big fan of Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, you can't go wrong with this one on 4K. So The Fugitive for my number 8. And then for my number 7 is a title that I've definitely talked about quite a bit on the channel before, but, I got to mention it because it's a classic and it's a must-own 4K in my book. Speed from 1994, little Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock action there, and of course, who could forget Dennis Hopper as the bad guy? One of my favorite roles that he's ever played. He was one of the best bad guys I think we've ever seen in action movies. But this is another one of those deals where it's by far the best this film has ever looked on home media. I don't know if I'd consider it like a demo-worthy disc, but I mean, it looks great. And, if you're a fan of this film, then this is going to look better than any other option you've got. And it's probably the best we're ever going to get for this film. And again, it's kind of like Point Break. It kind of has a little bit more muted, kind of a little bit flatter, I don't even know how to explain it. Just kind of a slightly duller look to it. That's just the aesthetic, the style of the film, right? And that director, Jan de Bont, that was common for him. On all the films that he was like the cinematographer on, they all, or directed like this or Twister, they all had a similar kind of aesthetic and visual appearance to them that I can't quite put my finger on. But on 4K, this film easily looks the best it ever has. And I'm really glad I added it to my collection. Of course, there was no way I was not going to, right? This is a favorite of mine. I love this one and have a lot of fond memories of this one, seeing it in the theater. Great film. So for my number 7, Speed. And then next up for my number 6, another film by the exact same director, Jan de Bont, which I was just talking about his style there. Well, Twister is another one that has that similar kind of appearance to it. Like if you compare this and Speed together, you'll see what I mean. There's just a certain look that his films have. He also was like the cinematographer on Die Hard, and you'll notice Die Hard has that same kind of look to it, that kind of muted look to it that's, again, it's kind of hard to explain, but I know it when I see it, right? This easily looks the best this film's ever looked. In the past, I was never really that happy with how it looked on physical media, on Blu-ray, and I remember the DVD. It was like the first DVD ever released when DVD was brand new, right? And this was like one of, if not the first title ever released on DVD. So I never thought that old DVD looked very good. I had the Blu-ray as well. I didn't think the Blu-ray looked that great either. But this 4K far surpasses anything we've seen on home media before. And the director himself said that he thinks this 4K looks better than the film looked when it was in the theaters, right? because he was able to do some things with the color timing and change a few like things with the color here that he was never able to do with the original film at the time. For example, at one point, you'll notice the sky, it's a little bit revisionist, but it didn't really bother me because it was the director's intention. That was what he always wanted to do all along. There's one scene where the sky is supposed to be green, and they reference it being green, right? And they always wanted the sky to be really green, and they could never get, the director said, like the special features, that he could never get the sky to be as green as they actually wanted it. But with the 4K, he's corrected that and finally got it the way he wanted it. So yeah, this is a fantastic 4K of this film, and it's like Speed, easily the best this thing has ever looked on home media, and probably ever. Considering the nature and style of this particular film, yeah, the 4K is the best it's ever looked. So if you're a fan of this, you should definitely, it's absolutely a must own in my book. Now, I have the chunky box here. You don't necessarily have to go with the chunky box. Actually, mine's I love it when Warner Brothers does this, these steelbook chunky boxes. You actually get a steelbook in the rigid hard box there. With that original art there, right? So very cool stuff. And then you get, some art cards and some other stuff as well. But, and of course, the case on this is super cool. Check that out. I don't know if you can see it. There's spot gloss raindrops covering the entire thing. If I can get it in the reflection here, I don't know if you can really see it. And it's hard for me to tell from where I'm standing if you can actually see it. So I'm not going to worry about it, but yeah, anyway, if you don't want this fancy chunky box, you can certainly get a standard edition as well. And you might even be able to buy a standalone steelbook as well. So it doesn't matter whether you have the chunky box or not. It's still a fantastic must-own 4K for your collection. So yeah, for my number 6, Twister. All right, and now we are into the top 5, getting close to wrapping this up. I've got a 1999 film here from M. Night Shyamalan, The Sixth Sense, absolute classic. And this is absolutely a demo-worthy 4K. It looks stunning on 4K. I was pretty taken aback by how good this looked. It just came out, I think, end of last year? I'm trying to remember when this came out. I think it was just last year. And yeah, I love it. I was really blown away by how good it looked on 4K. A lot more presence and vibrancy to the image. You get a lot more detail, and just, again, that depth and that pop are all there. So if you're a fan of this movie, it's one that you should definitely own on 4K, because it's a significant improvement over anything we've seen in the past with this movie. So for my number 5, The Sixth Sense. Okay, and next up for my number 4, a little more Arnold action here. We've got Total Recall, another stone cold classic here, and this one has a really high rewatch factor for me as well. Of course, I just love this movie. How can you not love this movie? But the 4K looks great. Another, I think it's a demo-worthy 4K. It's really stellar. It really is. Just a tremendous-looking 4K. And you can't go wrong with something like this. Paul Verhoeven, his films really, they translate well to 4K, I've noticed. All of the 4Ks of his films just look incredible. So this is definitely no exception. Let me show you the back here. I got the steelbook here, which I think is long out of print now. It was a Best Buy exclusive steelbook back when Best Buy was still carrying physical media. And of course, they stopped carrying physical media altogether. And I think all those Best Buy exclusives have now become like Amazon exclusives or something. I think Walmart gets maybe some of them, but it seems like a lot of those exclusive steelbooks have gone to Amazon now. But of course, you can still get a standard edition of Total Recall. You don't have to, go and try and spend an arm and a leg on an out of print steelbook. So look for the standard edition 4K of this one if this is one you're interested in. So yeah, for my number 4, Total Recall. All right, and for my number 3, we've got one that's absolutely a demo-worthy 4K here, and this one actually just came out earlier this year, and I think it's going to be a contender for 4K of the year. And I'm talking about Jackie Brown here from 1997. you can't go wrong with Tarantino. It should be no surprise at all that Tarantino's films are going to look stellar in 4K. And they all do look good in 4K. And in fact, there's one I'm not including on this list that also looks just as good as this one and Pulp Fiction, or pretty close. But I just didn't want to have, so much Tarantino taking up spots on my list, right? So maybe I'll save that one for a sequel video at some point. And I'm talking about Reservoir Dogs, by the way. That's another stunning 4K. But for now, we're talking about Jackie Brown, my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, even over Pulp Fiction. This has always been my favorite. And the detail on this is so sharp, so crisp, so much depth to this image, so much pop. You just can't go wrong with this title on 4K. So if you're a Tarantino fan, I think you got to get all the Tarantino movies on 4K. But you especially want to get Jackie Brown. Demo-worthy transfer. You can't go wrong with this one. So for my number 3, Jackie Brown. Okay, these last two titles were definitely included in my my previous must-own 4K videos, the more general ones. I think both of these were in my very first must-own 4K video from 2 years ago. But this one is, oh man, this looks incredible on 4K. You got to get this certain version, though. You can't just get any version. I'm talking about The Fifth Element from 1997. I've definitely talked about this on the channel before. You want to make sure you get the one with this artwork, all right? You want the Studio Canal version of The Fifth Element. I would not get the Sony version. The US Sony release, it's okay. The Sony release isn't bad, but this Studio Canal version, there's just something about it. They did something different with the restoration or whatnot, and it just blows away the Sony release. Even though they're both sourced from the same scan, Studio Canal did some stuff with theirs that just makes it look so much better. And let me put it this way. I wouldn't consider the US Sony version to be a demo-worthy title, but I do consider the Studio Canal UK version to be a demo-worthy title. In fact, some would even argue this is damn near reference quality. Right, it really is good. So make sure you get the Studio Canal release, and you can buy this from Amazon US. It's a UK import, but you can buy it on Amazon US. So just make sure you're looking for the one with this artwork. You'll probably notice the little age rating stickers and all that on it. That's the one you want. You want the UK Studio Canal release. It absolutely blows away the 4K from Sony here in the US. And this film really lends itself well to 4K. There's a lot of cool sets and set pieces and practical effects that are used that really pop in 4K. So for my number 2, The Fifth Element. And then finally, for my number 1, a movie I've definitely talked about a lot on the channel before, The Matrix from 1999, another stunning 4K release. And again, I don't know, some people are wondering if this one is as good because there's some earlier CGI in it. But surprisingly, that earlier CGI, it actually holds up pretty well. And there is a lot of practical stuff in this film. It's more practical than CGI. Right? There's a ton of practical stuff. They designed so many cool sets for the inside of the ship and everything. So much cool stuff in this film. The sets look great. The clothing, that they wear, you can see every little detail on their faces and the clothing and the set design. The detail is off the charts. On this 4K. And of course, you have that usual depth that you're going to get with the HDR as well, and the wider color gamut, lots of pop in the colors. But this one does look absolutely stunning on 4K. I won't say too much about it because I've certainly talked about it a lot on this channel before, but if you're a fan of The Matrix and you don't own this in your collection, I would recommend picking it up. Now, I say get them all. Right? Or at least the trilogy of the first 3 films or something, if you don't like Matrix Resurrection. Although even Matrix Resurrection, a lot of people didn't like that movie, but it still looks good on 4K. It's still reference quality. Well, I don't know, references might be a little strong, but it's still a demo-worthy 4K for even Matrix Resurrection. They all look good on 4K, but it's true, this one looks the best out of all of them. And you can't go wrong with The Matrix on 4K. So for my number 1, The Matrix. Okay, so that about wraps it up for my top 20 must-own 4K movies from the 1990s. Let me know what you think of my list in the comments below, and let me know what some of your favorite 4Ks from the 90s are. I always love chatting with you guys and interacting with you guys and hearing from you guys, so make sure you leave me some feedback down below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.